My son-in-law called me at 11:30 on a Tuesday night. "Robert," he said, his voice carrying that confident tone I'd started to recognize. "We need to discuss the company restructure. The board agrees we need younger, tech-forward leadership. Your experience has been appreciated. But frankly, your methods don't align with where we're taking Harrison Construction." I stood at my kitchen window, looking out at the darkness, the same window where I'd stood 28 years ago when the hospital called to say my wife Margaret wouldn't make it through the night. The same window where I'd promised her I'd take care of our daughter Emily and build something she could be proud of. "I see," I said quietly. "The new investors are ready to buy out your stake. 60 cents on the dollar. Given the current climate, that's more than fair." I hung up, said nothing, and made a few very quiet calls. I built Harrison Construction from nothing. Started in 1987 with a pickup truck, a toolbox, and enough stubborn pride to bid on jobs no one else wanted. Foundations, drainage systems, the unglamorous backbone work that keeps buildings standing. Margaret used to joke that I married the company before I married her. She wasn't entirely wrong, but she understood. Some men build empires. I built something simpler, a reputation. In 37 years, we'd never missed a deadline, never had a safety violation, never walked away from a difficult project. The company became my daughter's inheritance before she even understood what that meant. Emily grew up on job sites, wearing her little pink hard hat, asking me why concrete took so long to dry. When Margaret got sick, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, 6 months from diagnosis to the end, Emily was 17. I'd sit by Margaret's hospital bed at night, and we'd talk about the future. "Promise me you'll take care of her," Margaret whispered one evening, her voice thin as paper. "And promise me you won't let the company die with you. Build something that outlasts us both." "I promise," I said. Margaret never got to see Emily graduate college. Never saw her become the sharp, capable woman who earned her accounting degree while working part-time in Harrison Construction's office every summer. Never met Michael. Michael Chen came into our lives 4 years ago at a industry networking event. Young, 32, to Emily's 28. MBA from Northwestern. 5 years at McKinsey before he decided consulting wasn't fulfilling. He had that polished confidence that comes from expensive education and rooms full of people telling you you're brilliant. Emily brought him to Sunday dinner the 3rd time they went out. "Dad," she said, her face bright with something I hadn't seen since before Margaret died. "This is Michael. He wants to hear about the foundation work you did on the Riverside Medical Center." We talked for 3 hours that night. Michael asked good questions, took notes on his phone, seemed genuinely interested in the technical details of post-tension slab construction. He laughed at my stories about hauling concrete in Chicago winters. He looked at Emily like she was the only person in the room. "Your daughter tells me you built this company from scratch," he said as he was leaving. "That's incredible. Most people inherit their success. You earned yours." I should have paid attention to that word. They were engaged within a year. The wedding was simple. Emily insisted on it. Said her mother would have wanted something intimate. 50 people at a restaurant we'd taken Emily to for birthdays since she was 6. Michael's parents flew in from San Francisco, polite but distant. His father spent the entire reception talking on his phone. His mother asked me twice what my exit strategy was for the company. "I plan to work until I can't lift a pencil," I told her. She smiled thinly. "How?" "Traditional." After the wedding, Michael started asking about joining Harrison Construction. "I know I don't have field experience," he said over coffee one Saturday, "but I understand business systems, scaling, operational efficiency. You've built something incredible, Robert, but there's potential you're not capturing." Emily was thrilled. "Dad, think about it. You've always said you wanted someone to take over eventually. Michael's smart. You could teach him the construction side. He brings the business expertise." I was 60 years old. My back hurt more mornings than it didn't. The company had 18 full-time employees. Annual revenue around $8 million. We were comfortable but not ambitious. Maybe Emily was right. Maybe it was time. I brought Michael on as director of operations. Starting salary $85,000, generous for someone with no industry experience. I paired him with Tommy Rodriguez, my project manager of 15 years, to learn how we actually built things. Michael was a quick study, I'll give him that. Within 6 months, he could read blueprints, understand load calculations, talk to subcontractors without sounding completely lost. He started attending pre-bid meetings, sitting in on client presentations. Some of the younger guys liked him. He talked about disrupting the industry, leveraging technology, building strategic partnerships. At the 1-year mark, Michael came to my office with a presentation. "Robert, I've been analyzing our growth potential," he said. Laptop open, slides ready. We're leaving money on the table. The commercial renovation market in the northwest suburbs is exploding. If we open a second office in Schaumburg, we could double revenue in 3 years. I looked at his projections. Aggressive, but not impossible. How much? Initial investment $180,000. Office lease. Equipment. Hiring a small crew. I'd run it. Keep you free to focus on the existing operations. Emily was excited when I discussed it with her that evening. "Dad, this is exactly what Mom wanted. Growth. Legacy. And Michael would be leading it, keeping it in the family." I wrote the check. $180,000 from the business account. Secured by Michael's equity stake, 25% of the new division. Structured, so, if it failed, the debt stayed with him. The Schaumburg office opened in March. Michael hired 3 project managers, all younger than 35. All with corporate backgrounds, none with significant field experience. He leased expensive office space with glass walls and standing desks. He branded it Harrison Forward, a name I didn't choose and didn't particularly like. "It's about signaling that we're not your grandfather's construction company," Michael explained when I questioned the branding. "I am a grandfather," I said. Emily was 5 months pregnant with our first grandchild. You know what I mean. The first red flag was subtle. Michael stopped including me in the Schaumburg bid proposals. When I asked to review a $400,000 commercial renovation contract, he said, "Robert, you hired me to run this division. You need to trust my judgment. Trust and oversight aren't mutually exclusive. In modern management theory, they are. Micromanagement kills innovation." I let it go. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was too old school. The second red flag was louder. I ran into Danny Kowalski at a Chamber of Commerce breakfast in July. Danny owned a mid-sized electrical contracting company we'd partnered with for 15 years. "Hey, Robert," Danny said, pulling me aside. "No hard feelings about the Oakbrook project, right? Business is business." "What Oakbrook project?" "The Medical Plaza renovation. Your guy Michael told us Harrison was going in a different direction, working with strategic vendors going forward." Danny made air quotes. "Said you were restructuring partnerships to focus on firms with modern technical capabilities." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Danny, I don't know what Michael told you, but Harrison's vendor relationships haven't changed." Danny's face shifted. "Oh, well, that's interesting." I checked the Oakbrook project files that afternoon. Michael had awarded the electrical work to a firm I'd never heard of, Chicago Tech Electric. Their bid was $35,000 higher than Danny's. Their owner was listed as Jason Chen, Michael's younger brother. When I confronted Michael, he didn't even look embarrassed. "Jason's company needed the work," he said, leaning back in his chair in the Schaumburg office. "It's called strategic partnership. You help family. I thought you of all people would understand that. Not when it costs the company $35,000 and burns a 15-year relationship. Danny's fine. He'll get over it. This is how business works now. Robert. Quid pro quo. Networks. You do favors, you get favors back. That's called corruption." Michael smiled. "That's called growth." The third red flag was a phone call from our bank in September. Our line of credit had been extended by $50,000. Did I want to review the terms? I didn't authorize any credit extension. The loan was in Harrison Forward's name, co-signed by Michael as Director of Operations. The stated purpose: technology, infrastructure upgrades. I called the Schaumburg office. Michael's assistant said he was in meetings all day. I drove to Schaumburg, walked into the glass office unannounced. Michael was at a standing desk with two men I didn't recognize, looking at something on a large monitor. "Robert," Michael said, not quite managing to hide his annoyance. "I thought we agreed you'd give me space to run operations here." "We agreed you'd run operations, not take out unauthorized loans." The two men exchanged glances. Michael gestured for them to leave. "We'll finish this later," he told them. When we were alone, Michael crossed his arms. The loan was necessary. We needed better project management software. "Show me the invoices." "I don't have time for this, Robert. I have a client call in. Show me the invoices." He pulled up some PDF files. Professional looking. Detailed line items. $28,000 for software licensing. $15,000 for IT consulting. $7,000 for hardware. Something felt wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it. "Who's the IT consultant?" I asked. "A firm out of California. Rapid Scale Solutions." "And you vetted them?" "Obviously." I left. But I didn't go back to the main office. I sat in my truck in the parking lot and Googled Rapid Scale Solutions California. Nothing came up. I tried variations, different spellings. Nothing. I called Tommy Rodriguez. "Tommy, you know anyone good with computers? Like, really good?" "My nephew Marco works in cybersecurity." "Why?" "I need someone to look at some files." Quietly. Marco was 26, worked for a downtown firm that did digital forensics. He met me at a coffee shop that evening, brought his laptop. I gave him the PDF files Michael had shown me. Marco pulled up something called metadata. "These were created October 3rd, he said, pointing at the screen. "Same day you probably asked for them. Can you tell if the companies are real?" Marco typed for a few minutes. "Rapid Scale Solutions. There's no California business registration. No website. No corporate filings. The address listed here is a UPS store in Pasadena." My hands were shaking. "What about the software company?" More typing. "Project Wise Systems LLC. Registered in Delaware 3 months ago. Corporate officer is Sofia Torres." "Who's Sofia Torres?" Marco looked at me. According to her LinkedIn, she's Michael Chen's college girlfriend, currently listed as entrepreneur and consultant. I drove home in silence. Emily was making dinner when I walked in vegetable soup, Margaret's old recipe. She was 8 months pregnant now, moving slowly around the kitchen. "Dad, you look terrible. Are you okay?" I sat at the kitchen table. The same table where Margaret and I had paid our first mortgage bill. Where Emily had done her homework while I reviewed blueprints. Where we'd celebrated birthdays and mourned losses and made every important decision of our lives. "Emily," I said, "I need to talk to you about Michael." Her face changed. Defensive immediately. "What about Michael?" I told her everything. The nepotism with his brother, the fake vendors, the unauthorized loan, the fabricated invoices. Emily set down her spoon. "Dad, Michael is building something. Yes, maybe he's cutting corners on some formalities. But that's how you scale a business. You're thinking small time because that's all you've ever known. I'm thinking legally because that's how you stay out of prison. He's my husband. The father of my child. Your son-in-law. And you're accusing him of what? Exactly? Fraud? I'm saying the numbers don't add up. Then talk to him. Don't investigate him like he's a criminal." But I couldn't talk to Michael, because the next day, he called that Tuesday night meeting. "Robert," Michael said on the phone, "the board agrees. We need younger, tech-forward leadership." "Board? What board?" "Harrison Construction didn't have a board." "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Emily and I have been discussing the company's future. We've brought in some advisors. Potential investors. People who see the vision we're building. The consensus is that traditional leadership is holding us back. Traditional leadership. You mean me. I mean approaches that don't scale. Vendor loyalty over competitive bidding. Paper trails over digital systems. Personal relationships over data-driven decisions. Robert, you built something incredible 30 years ago. But this isn't 30 years ago. I own 75% of this company. Michael, actually, with the restructuring and the capital we've raised for Harrison Forward, it's closer to 60%. And with the dilution from the new investor round we're planning, it'll be less. Your share is shrinking. The company is growing. That's how this works. My heart was pounding. What investors? Groups I've been talking to. Private equity firms interested in the construction space. They see potential in Harrison Forward, the modern branch. They're less excited about legacy operations. You can't raise capital without my approval. Check the operating agreement you signed when I came on. Section 7.3. The Director of Operations has authority to pursue growth opportunities in the division they manage. I had signed an operating agreement. Michael had presented it as standard legal formalization when he joined. My lawyer had reviewed it. But I hadn't read every section. The new investors are ready to buy out your stake, Michael continued. 60 cents on the dollar. Given the current climate, that's more than fair. You want to buy me out of the company I built. I want to give you a comfortable retirement and take the company where it needs to go. This isn't personal, Robert. It's evolution. Your methods are outdated. Your vendors are outdated. Hell, you still use a flip phone. The industry is changing. We need tech-savvy leadership. Something in his voice, not cruel, exactly. Worse than cruel. Dismissive. Like I was a problem to be solved. A line item to be optimized away. Your methods are outdated, he said again. I hung up, stood at my kitchen window in the dark, and made a few very quiet calls. The first call was to Richard Bloom, my attorney for 20 years. Richard, I need you to review something. Tonight, if possible. The operating agreement for Harrison Construction and every document related to Harrison Forward. The second call was to Tommy Rodriguez. Tommy, I need you to pull every file, every receipt, every invoice from the Schaumburg office. Everything Michael's division has generated in the last year. Put it all on a hard drive. Don't tell anyone you're doing it. The third call was to Marco, Tommy's nephew. Marco, I'm hiring you for a weekend project. Confidential. Well paid. I need a complete audit of Harrison Forward's financial records. Every transaction. Every vendor. Every loan. Can you do that? If you give me access, I can find anything. The fourth call was to Jack Morrison. Jack owned Morrison and Associates, the largest construction firm in the Chicago suburbs. We'd been friendly competitors for 30 years, bid against each other, had drinks at the same industry events, referred clients when projects weren't the right fit. Jack, I said, hypothetically, if Harrison Construction's second division were available for acquisition, just the division, not the company, would you be interested? Silence on the line. Then, Robert, are you okay? And why? Captain Mind, answer the question. Harrison Forward? The Schaumburg operation? Hell yes, I'd be interested. Michael's young guys are good, and you've got client relationships I've been trying to break into for years. What's this about? Hypothetically, what would you pay? For the division, the contracts, the staff, and the client list? $400,000. Cash. Tomorrow if you wanted. If I added the proprietary project management systems and vendor network? Wushuan Meiyuan. I thanked him and hung up. Richard called back at midnight. Robert, we need to talk. In person. Tomorrow morning. We met at his office at 7 a.m. Richard looked like he hadn't slept. The operating agreement, he said, spreading documents across his conference table, gives Michael authority to pursue growth opportunities. But it also contains a clause, section 12.8, that you added at my insistence. Remember? Protection against self-dealing. I didn't remember. I'd signed the agreement 4 years ago, trusted Richard to protect me. If Michael has engaged in any form of self-dealing, awarding contracts to family members, creating fake vendors, misrepresenting financials to investors, you have the right to immediately terminate his position and dissolve any subsidiary entities. Full stop. What about his equity stake? Forfeited. If he's breached fiduciary duty, he's violated the terms of his equity agreement. He gets nothing, and the money he borrowed becomes his personal debt. If Harrison Forward is dissolved, its debts transfer to whoever was the authorized signatory. That's Michael. I felt something unlock in my chest. What do I need to prove self-dealing? Evidence. Documentation. The more the better. Marco worked all weekend. Tuesday morning, he came to my house with a 50-page report. Mr. Harrison, he said, Michael Chen has created at least 6 fake vendors in the last 18 months. They're all registered to addresses that don't exist, or to people in his network. The $50,000 loan? Only $12,000 went to actual software. The rest went to accounts controlled by Michael's brother and ex-girlfriend. He's also been billing personal expenses to Harrison. Forward car payments, apartment rent, even his gym membership. How much total? Best estimate? He's diverted about $80,000 from the company into his own pockets over the last year. I took the report to Richard. Richard took one look and said, "This is enough." I called Michael that Tuesday afternoon. "We need to meet. Tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. Schaumburg office. Robert, I'm busy. If this is about the buyout, 9 a.m. Be there." I arrived at 8:30. Brought Richard. Brought the evidence. Brought a security guard from a firm we used for job sites. Michael showed up at 9:15 with his own attorney, a young woman in an expensive suit. "Robert, if you're here to negotiate, my position hasn't changed," Michael said, walking into the conference room. 60 cents on the dollar. That's... Sit down, I said. Something in my voice made him stop. I slid the report across the table. That's documentation of 18 months of fraud. Fake vendors. Embezzlement. Self-dealing. Breach of fiduciary duty. You want to know why I'm here? I'm here to inform you that as of this moment, you're terminated from Harrison Construction. Harrison Forward is dissolved. Your equity is forfeited, and you personally owe the company $80,000. Michael's attorney started reading the report. Her face went white. "You have 3 choices," Richard said, his voice calm and professional. 1. You repay the $80,000 immediately and walk away. We don't file charges. 2. You refuse, and we file both civil and criminal complaints. You'll spend the next 5 years in litigation and possibly prison. 3. You sign this agreement. Richard slid a document across the table. Michael's attorney read it. Then read it again. "What agreement?" Michael said. "You resign immediately," I said. "You repay $50,000. I'm writing off the rest as a lesson in trusting family. You sign away any claim to Harrison Construction or its assets, and you sign a non-disclosure agreement. You never talk about Harrison Construction. You never work in the construction industry in Illinois again, and you never contact any of our clients or vendors. And if I do that, I don't prosecute. I don't tell Emily the full details. And I sell Harrison Forward to Jack Morrison for $500,000. I keep $300,000 to cover losses and legal fees. The remaining $200,000 goes into a trust fund for your child, my grandchild, payable when they turn 25. Michael stared at me. "You're blackmailing me. I'm giving you a choice, which is more than you gave me. Emily will never forgive you for this." Probably not. But I made a promise to her mother. I promised I'd protect her, even from herself, even if it costs me our relationship. Michael signed. His attorney looked relieved. I dissolved Harrison Forward that afternoon. Called Jack Morrison. "The division's yours for $500,000. You get the staff, the contracts, the clients. One condition: you keep the good people. Tommy Rodriguez's nephew works there. Single mother. 2 kids. She stays employed. Deal, Jack said. The next part was hardest. I called Emily that evening. We need to talk. She came to the house. 8.5 months pregnant, moving slowly. Sat at the kitchen table. Michael told me you fired him, she said. Her voice was cold. Said you can't handle that he's better at business than you. I slid a copy of Marco's report across the table. Simplified. Just the facts. Emily read. Kept reading. Her hands started shaking. Dad, she whispered. Is this real? Every word. He stole from us. From you. Yes. And I defended him. I told you, her voice broke. I told you that you were thinking small. You were defending your husband. That's what you're supposed to do. But I didn't listen. I should have trusted you. I reached across the table, took her hand. Emily, you're about to have a baby. You're building a life. What Michael did, that's on him. Not on you. You don't carry his mistakes. What happens now? Now you decide what you want your life to look like. I've set up a trust fund for the baby. $200,000. Not accessible until they're 25. But it's there. Michael's out of the company. What you do with your marriage, that's your choice. I'll support whatever you decide. Emily filed for divorce 3 weeks later. Gave birth to my grandson, James Robert, 4 weeks after that. Michael showed up at the hospital. Brought flowers. Tried to talk to her. She told him to leave. Michael moved to Denver. Last I heard, he's working for a real estate development firm. Making decent money. Doesn't talk about his time in construction. Emily moved back into our house with baby James. We converted Margaret's old craft room into a nursery. Emily took over as Harrison Construction's CFO. Turns out, she's brilliant with numbers, caught inefficiencies I'd missed for years, renegotiated our insurance contracts, saved us $40,000 in the first 6 months. Tommy Rodriguez became director of operations. He doesn't talk about disrupting the industry. He just makes sure we show up, do the work, and treat people right. I still go to the office every day. Still wear steel-toed boots on job sites. Still use a flip phone, which Emily makes fun of constantly. Last month, we finished a foundation job in Schaumburg. The client was thrilled. Paid on time. Wrote a note. In 30 years of development, I've never worked with a more reliable contractor. I brought the note home. Put it on the refrigerator next to James's first drawing. A scribbled mess, Emily insisted, was Grandpa's truck. That night, I stood at my kitchen window. The same window where I'd stood when Margaret died. Where I'd stood when Michael called to tell me I was outdated. Made a promise 28 years ago. Promised Margaret I'd protect Emily and build something that lasted. Kept the first promise by breaking my daughter's heart for 6 months. She's forgiven me now. Mostly. Kept the second promise by walking away from $180,000 and watching someone I'd trusted steal from family. But Harrison Construction is still here. Still building. Still earning our reputation one foundation at a time. And my grandson James, 2 months old, sleeping in his crib upstairs. He's got a college fund, a trust fund, and a company waiting for him if he ever wants it. Not bad for outdated methods.